how did you define productive? Most people don't have a plan that sets you up for success from the get-go. Oh dear, did I do enough? Most people don't do this, and it blows my mind. I wish for every single one of you to one day have a system that allows you to feel that exact same way. This specific planning process is actually going to keep you honest. It's going to avoid you wasting your precious time and energy, which are your most valuable resources, by the way. And don't get me wrong, that's where most people fall short. How much more free time would you have if you had the ultimate planning formula that helps you get your work done faster without compromising on your results? Well, in today's episode, you are going to learn about my signature nesting planning formula that is going to leave you feeling calm, focused, in control, and having ticked all those boxes with plenty of time and energy to spare to do what you love. Let's begin. Welcome to Resonance, the podcast for high performers and entrepreneurs who want to do life, work, and success differently. I am your host, Viktoria Levenberg, and I'm obsessed with efficiency, productivity, and planning in a way that harnesses your energy and your natural rhythms while keeping you in alignment and integrity. Because I have figured out that lasting success is not about the hustle. It is about being in resonance. Let's begin. Okay, so this week's episode is really inspired by my students in Efficiency Made Easy. We're doing the very first round. It is so amazing. Honestly, I am in awe of their progress. It's like the best people I could have ever asked for to move through this very first round of Efficiency Made Easy. And I'm about to begin to teach them some of the really big nitty-gritty planning formulas. And as I'm preparing the course material, I thought, hey, why not give you all a little bit of a sneak peek of what's coming their way so that you too can begin to get more done in less time and start to optimize your productivity as you move forward. You see, the thing is that most people think that a to-do list equals a plan. And if you are like most people, chances are that you are also feeling behind, overwhelmed, and like you're revving your engine so hard, but quite unclear where you're going, and perhaps even have gotten the handbrake on a little bit, let's be honest. And by the end of this specific episode, you will have the most effective strategy for creating a great plan, rather than just like a meh kind of plan, Because I don't do meh, I do great and excellent, which is through nesting. So again, I'll get into all this detail in just a little moment. But basically, nesting then allows you to move forward in your life with clarity, with comfort, with trust in your plan. There's so much alignment. There is a red thread that truly runs through the whole thing. And that means that you can then make meaningful progress on the goals that actually matter. You can consciously enjoy your life, like be present for your family, your loved ones, your friends, do the hobbies, do the retreat, whatever you want to do, without that thought in the back of your mind of, oh dear, did I do enough? So if this sounds like your cup of tea, let's begin. Okay, so as we get into the nitty gritty, as I've already alluded to, most people think that a to-do list equals a plan. And so they just write this list and they add things onto the list, and all of a sudden the list is overflowing and it feels really unmanageable. And they're like frantically running around like a headless chicken, being like, I don't even know what to do. What's important? Did I do enough? Everything's important. Unproductive. Yeah, I know. And if you're feeling a little bit attacked, this isn't an attack. This is just me speaking from my personal experience, because that is what I went through. And this is exactly the thoughts that were running through my own mind. And it was really interesting because just this week, I had one of my students of Efficiency Made Easy talk about how, they're feeling really unproductive. And that's quite confronting to look at. And my very first question straight off the bat was, well, like, how did you define productive? Because this is the thing. Most people don't have a plan that sets you up for success from the get-go. And so, of course, you're feeling like you didn't do enough and like you're not productive, etc., because you didn't even define what enough looks like. Most people who I speak to aren't defining done. They don't know what the end result that they're actually going to achieve. Like, what does it mean? And this specifically applies to high performers, entrepreneurs, people in corporate, people in these roles where, it's really hard to tangibilize your work, where it's sort of like, it's just an endless open flow of creativity, of possibility, of things to do. And I vividly remember, struggling in one of my previous relationships where my partner at the time was in a trade, in the trades, right? So he was a tradesperson. It's like you show up on site, you leave the site, and it's like job done. Because what are you going to do? You're not going to think about, did I put the nail in the right place when you're home, right? Like it's just different. It's very tangible. You can see you're creating things with your hand. And during that time, it was really challenging for me to articulate how I don't just clock off when I end the workday, because there's like things running through my mind and the to-do list and all these things. And now as I reflect on that time, I'm like, whoa, well, like now I do clock off, because even when I'm in a peak season, like right now I'm in a pretty busy season of my life and things are really full and dynamic and there's a lot demanded from me. And even when I get that little whisper in the back of my ear being like, did I do everything I needed to do? Did I do enough? It's like, oh, hang on. I've got a system in place that tells me, absolutely, Vic, you did more than enough. You are done. You can rest. You are productive. You are complete. You are done. And I wish for every single one of you to one day have a system that allows you to feel that exact same way. And if I'm the person that helps you build that system, amazing. So let's get started. One of the key ingredients that distinguishes like a meh plan from a great plan is nesting. And I tried to find, a better word for this. I even went to thesaurus.com, and interestingly, so this episode that I'm sharing with you today, I wrote about it a few weeks ago. And as I was writing, I was trying to find a better word. I'm really trying to increase my writing skills or up my writing skills, right? And so I'm typing nesting into thesaurus.com and it just keeps on going to dictionary.com. And that's never happened to me. It's I know they're interconnected, but I've never typed a word into thesaurus and had it point me straight to the dictionary. And I kept trying to do it, and it was just constantly taking me to the dictionary. I was like, okay, there's clearly something here. And so I read the definition, which I'm going to read to you now. And so according to dictionary.com, nesting is the tendency to arrange one's immediate surroundings, such as a workstation, to create a place where one feels secure, comfortable, or in control. And I was like, oh, that's why it's not letting me find a different word for it. Because this is the perfect word that I'm looking for. Secure, comfortable, and in control. I'm like, isn't that what we're all craving? It's comfort and safety and that feeling of things like having things under control, especially when it comes to our work life and business. And so I was like, yeah, of course it's nesting. And it makes so much sense. Even as I think of the little babushkas, which if you don't, they're these little Russian dolls where you've got a big doll and then inside that doll is another doll and then inside that doll is another doll. They're nested into one another. I'm like, this is the perfect word. It's exactly what I'm looking for. And here's the kicker, you're about to learn this, but most people don't do this. And it blows my mind because of course, then no wonder they're feeling anxious, insecure, and like they are this powerful car with a lot of potential, perhaps even revving their engine pretty hard, but going absolutely nowhere. So look, I'm going to preface this with a disclaimer that the detailed of how this works is a whole curriculum inside Efficiency Made Easy, right? I am literally delivering this over a multitude of weeks with my students. So there's only so much I can pack into a podcast episode. So if as you're listening to this, you're like, whoa, this sounds like my cup of tea, I really want to dive in, make sure that you get your name on the priority list for my next launch. I'm going to be limiting the seats that are available for this next cohort, just as I still refine some little bits and pieces. So if you want to get in, be one of the first ones that are still in this really small, intimate container, and yes, still get access to it for a much better rate than what I'm going to be selling it for when it's going out to the public, then now is the time to join that waitlist. So Anyways, you'll find all the links in the show notes, and I'll be speaking to this at the end of the episode. But I just wanted to preface this with a little disclaimer that like, this is just starting to scratch the surface. There's so much more here that I have to share and that I get to share with those of you who decide to join me in Efficiency Made Easy. So I love working with metaphors. Let's use the metaphor of a map. Or a babushka, but I think a map is probably more universally applicable, right? So like, you know, if you like open Google Maps on your phone or something, and you'll have this ability to zoom out all the way, right? Like it'll probably tell you your location of where you currently are, and then you can zoom out and you'll like see your town, and then it's like your country, and then your maybe your continent, and you can like play around on the world. So we're going to use this little metaphor as I explain nesting when it comes to planning to you, just to help us really visualize this and bring some tangibility, because I'm conscious this is a podcast. I'm just talking at you. And so I don't necessarily have like a little whiteboard and graphs and visuals that I can share here, especially with my visual learner types. So with that map and this ability for you to zoom in and out, your plan works the exact same way. And what I've noticed, the more I speak to high performers and high achievers, is that most people plan their week, maybe their day. That's it at best. And then even chances are that plan is pretty average. No offense, but chances are it's just a list of another list. And that is part of the reason why it's so average, is because it completely ignores the big picture. And so what you're doing is almost like you're moving through, if we take this metaphor of the map, these streets and corners and going left and right, etc., without really knowing where you're going, right? So like imagine just trying to navigate your life or your journey street by street without even knowing where you're going. It's like every time you arrive to a intersection, you're like, I don't know, do I go left or right or straight, or do I turn around? I've got no idea. I don't even know where I am on the map. And that is the reason that so many people in their work life and business also find themselves lost and going in the wrong direction, because they never stopped to zoom out in the first place. And this is exactly why I honor my rituals every week, every month, every quarter, every year, as if my life depends on it, because it does. Otherwise, you are literally just moving your life like this weird lost car, stopping and slowing down in the middle of the street, looking left and right. And it's like, I don't know, should I go here? Maybe, I guess. It kind of looks better than the other street. Well, that one looks like a dead end. Not sustainable. And don't get me wrong, I am the person who will always speak on ends about being present, being in the moment, and how important it is. I genuinely believe that too many of us are either stuck in the past and overthinking the past and the mistakes and things we said or whatever. And we're also hyper analyzing the future and projecting all these possible scenarios. So like, when I talk about planning and when I'm talking about using this nesting formula in your planning, I'm not talking about, the monkey mind just hopping back and forth. I do agree with you that yes, it is incredibly important for us to be present as we possibly can. And what helps unlock that presence is when you've got direction and alignment with your vision, your life, your purpose. And this is where we start. This is literally the first starting point where I'm beginning to take my students through as we move into building their operating system that's going to help them achieve their peak productivity. We start with this ultimate plan your dream life process. And we are zooming out all the way. So taking it back to our little metaphor of the map, we're going to zoom out. It's almost like you're taking this whole world view. You're going up into the satellite, into the stratosphere, and you see planet Earth. You see, wow, okay, this is the big, big, big picture. This is the planet I want to live in. This is the universe I want to create for myself. These are the things that are really important for me overall. And then as we start to, traverse the stratosphere and start to get down onto that planet a little bit, we start to see, okay, as I arrive in this place, this is my life. I see the overall vision. What's the overall direction? Like, where am I heading? What continent? West, east, whatever it is. So that is sort of the top line life vision component of planning. And I will, hands down, die on this hill and be like, this is where we need to start. because there is no point in you getting any further granular into the detail if you're not clear on that first. And before you even get clear on that, you need to understand some other big pieces around, as I mentioned earlier, the planet you live on, etc. But look, as I said, I'm keeping this high level, super pointed, and relevant to you here today. So overall life vision, what do you want your life to look like, is step one. Then step two of this nesting process, right? So we're opening our little babushka, we're getting the next one out. We're zooming the map in a little bit, is your year. So every year I facilitate a annual planning ritual, which is a whole process. And if we take that metaphor of the map, it's basically like, all right, so I know the direction I'm in. Now I need to kind of get clear on like, what country am I in? What language do I need to speak? What culture do I need to, fit into? What's allowed? What isn't? That's sort of what are the parameters of this specific space. So that's what your year plan is. It gives you a vision for the year ahead that's not quite as zoomed out as the whole life piece, right? Because that's your entire lived experience. It's already a much more contained time container that feels much more achievable, attainable, and tangible for a lot of people. And it's really important that that aligns with your big life vision, because at the end of the day, what is your life if not just a compilation of years? And so what you're doing this year is going to set you up for the next year, and which is going to set you up for the year after. And this is what I mean when I say like nesting, and it's almost like this little domino effect. Okay, so that is step two, is your annual planning ritual. And then we move into step three, which is your seasons or your quarters. It just depends on how you want to look at it, right? And so again, if we take it to our little map metaphor, you're zooming the map in a little bit closer. So you already know, the country that you're in. Now you're zooming into the town. Okay, so this is the specific town I'm in. I know it's part of this country, and it's going to move me around this little road trip in Spain or wherever it is that you are. And now I'm like, okay, cool. Like, this is the town. What are the key landmarks that I perhaps want to see? Or, what are the restaurants I want to visit? Whatever. Like, you can already get a little bit more specific. And that's exactly what your seasonal or your quarterly planning ritual does as well. It's already much more tangible than just the year, because it's effectively a 90-day container, right? So you can have enough time to really make some significant progress on a specific project. It is within reach for most people, that quarter. It is very actionable. And this is where a lot of people fall short, because I'll find that you'll have a group of the population that goes all the way into the micro, into like the detail of the day or the week. And then you'll have another group of the population that is like really great in the macro, the vision, the big picture. But rarely do you find people who can do both. And then where most people really struggle is this middle liminal space between the two, where it's like you've still got to have enough of a zoomed out view to see the whole season, and you also need to start getting more granular in terms of the specific milestones and project tasks and work streams that need to be taking place in order to move you forward on whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. So that is kind of that phase 3 of your nesting formula. It is the season. Then, as you can imagine, we're going to go down and zoom in a little bit more. So this is step 4 or phase 4, whatever you want to call it. It is the month. And so again, coming back to our little map analogy, imagine you're zooming in. You already know the country, you know the town. Now we're zooming into the neighborhood. Okay, cool. So like, I know that I will be hanging out in Soho, London, or central London, whatever. I've got no idea. But effectively, you can get so much more granular now. It's like, okay, I'm in central London. I know I want to visit the Tower. I want to visit Borough Market. I want to go to the Shard. I want to go down the river. It sort of already gives you much more specificity. And a month is only 4 to 5 weeks, depending on the calendar. So And this is where things are already starting to get pretty granular. And this is where the cycles of success also come in. I mean, they're part of the whole process, but this is where they really start to come into play, because generally the cycles of success tend to run on a monthly rhythm as well. And this is where most people, again, I would say the seasonal and the monthly fall short because they don't do this part. And that is where you get to actually build a plan that harnesses your peak energy seasons and also acknowledges the lower energy seasons in order for you to get more done. It's really important for you to be able to have that ability to look at the month and see, okay, what specific tangible action steps do I now need to take in this week? What are the big kind of milestones or project things that are going to move the dial forward? I'm a bit short for words on this. As you can tell, it's still new to me to teach this to others, right? So this is why the founding members launch was so special. And this is why the second launch of Efficiency Made Easy is so intimate as well. It's like I'm still figuring out how to best articulate it to someone else. So thank you for bearing with me as I'm like trying to download everything that happens in the Vic universe down into you. Okay, so that is basically phase 4. That is your month. Phase 5, as we nest down, we've opened up a lot of babushkas and there's still more. We've got the week. So this is already where most of you will probably have done some version of this, right? So as we take it back to our little map metaphor, you zoom in even more on the map. Now you can already start to see the specific streets. Okay, cool. If I want to go down to Borough Market, this is a street I've got to go down on. And ooh, I can see there's like this really beautiful cafe on down the road. I'll stop there. You can already sort of go to that level of detail. And the thing that most people miss, because again, like as I alluded to earlier, there'll be like groups of people who are better at the micro and the macro and vice versa, is that you'll do your weekly planning, but you won't have nested previously. So like there's no view of how that fits into the month or the quarter or the year in your life in general. And that's where most people fall short. And that's where most people who like say they have a to-do list that they look at week on week on week are then just moving things from one week to the next and then wondering why they're feeling so behind and so overwhelmed because that list just keeps accumulating. So this is where, yes, your weekly planning is really important, and all these previously nested steps are so crucial in this process as well. And then lastly, this gets me to your day. So if you've been listening to the podcast for a little while, you'll know that I'm a big advocate for weekly planning. I have tried the daily to-do lists and they don't work. You've probably tried them as well. They don't work. They set you up for failure 9 times out of 10. That is not to say like there are scenarios where daily to-do lists can be helpful, or like reminders. Obviously, calendars are really necessary. But when it comes to more like bigger project stuff, I definitely say weekly is best. And again, I teach my students in Efficiency Made Easy why that is. But you still obviously need to have a view of the day as well, right? And if we take it back to that little map metaphor, like that's already down to the granular level of detail of like, this is the specific building I am in, and I am going to, where's the bathroom? Just down the hall to the right, please. It's like, this is like already super nitty gritty. Like you are right there in the present moment. And a lot of people go about their day without a lot of clarity on how to best maximize the productivity, energy, and efficiency that is available to them in their day. Again, this is where like the cycles of success really come into play as well. This is where having had that nested plan really sets you up for success. There is an element of being able to ebb and flow with what's happening for you on that specific day. And like my students will tell you, I'm a massive advocate for having some kind of daily check-in. So that is like the tiniest little babushka that you will have in your little nested doll situation. And that is your 6th phase. That is the day. So the most important thing between all of these phases, right, from your day to your week, to your month, to your season, to your year, and to your overall life vision, is that they are aligned. There needs to be a a thread that runs through this entire process that keeps one connected to the other. It's just like the little babushka dolls, right? They are all the same, but just smaller denominations of one another. That's literally what nesting means. And they all fit into one another as well. That's how you make sure that you've got a connected, aligned plan that makes your success inevitable and easy. And if you're the type of person that at this point is like, okay, I think I get it, but like, it makes sense in theory. How do I do this in real life? How do I apply this into practice? That's what Efficiency Made Easy is for, my friends. Like, there's only so much I can deliver to you on this podcast, and there's intricacies and specifics to your life and circumstances that we would get to talk through in the coaching, etc. So if this is really like tickled your fancy and you're like, okay, I get it, but I don't know how, then I might be your gal. And that would be an honor and a privilege, because if you have ever found yourself sprinting on that hamster wheel and then pausing for a moment and being like, whoa, I've been like sprinting in the completely wrong direction, which like has happened to me, by the way. And I've got a whole podcast episode on my story. This specific planning process is actually going to keep you honest. This specific planning process is going to avoid that. It's going to avoid you wasting years and months and decades of your life chasing someone else's dream, chasing the wrong thing, wasting your precious time and energy, which are your most valuable resources, by the way. And instead, these specific rituals, these specific check-ins keep you honest, keep you accountable to yourself. They keep you in alignment with what truly matters to you. And then you're like a little captain just steering your ship. And you immediately notice if you veer a degree or two off course, you can readjust and realign, because that is how well nested this process is. So in summary, here you have it, my signature planning formula that sets up your work, life, and business for success straight from the get-go through nesting, having you feel secure, comfortable, and in control. So my invitation for you this week would be to just take a moment and reflect on the last week that's been, because oftentimes there's a lot of wisdom in just looking back before we look forward. And if you're game, maybe you even look back on the last month. And I truly encourage you, once you've done that, so you're like, okay, this was my last week, this was my last month, take a moment and look forward and be like, wait, tune into me. What do I really, really want? Like, what do I actually want? It's such a simple question that most people don't ask themselves. Like, what do I want for myself? What do I want for my life? What's important to me? Like, wait, this is my life. I get to live it my way. How do I want to live that? And then once you're clear on this, you get to ask yourself a little confronting question. Has how I've been living my life for the last week or month been aligned to the vision that I have for my life overall? And if the answer is no, then you know where to find me. Because when you follow this formula, you ensure your alignment no matter what. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I don't know what that was about, but yeah, thank you so much for listening to this week's episode. I'm so grateful that you are here. If you are interested, if you're curious, just send me a DM. Otherwise, just get your name on the priority list. I will be opening doors pretty soon. And I am really excited to continue to change lives and help you unlock your utmost productivity, organization, systematization, but most importantly, alignment to yourself and your purpose, your dharma. Thanks so much. Bye for now. How valuable would it be for you to get more done in less time while having more energy? Imagine the things that you could achieve if you finally stopped running on empty and instead learned to cultivate peak performance in your work, life, and business. We did just close enrollment for my very first round of Efficiency Made Easy, but I've got you. If you do also want to join this incredible group coaching program where I am going to be teaching the exact systems, tools, and processes I use to run my life, make sure you get yourself on the priority waitlist for when we open doors again, which is just a few short months away. In case you're wondering if this is for you, well, Look, does any of this apply? You might have big goals and a full schedule, but you're trying to achieve them through forced productivity. Or you're physically exhausted, but your mind just won't stop. Perhaps you feel a low grade of anxiety throughout your day, like even when you're trying to rest. And maybe you spend your day reacting to pings, emails, firefighting all the demands. And then by the time you get to the end of the week, you just move the same to-do list items all the way back over to Monday. If any of this applies to you and you would like to join this special program, make sure that you join the priority waitlist today. The link is in the show notes below and at victorialevenberg.com/success. Can't wait to see you there. The views and opinions expressed by guests on Resonance are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of me, Viktoria Levenberg, Live in Health, or anyone working within the Live in Health brand. This space welcomes a diversity of ideas, experiences, and stories, and part of Resonance is learning to take what aligns and gently leaving the rest. Also, while I am a national board-certified health and wellness coach and deeply passionate about well-being, this podcast is intended for educational and inspirational purposes only. Resonance does not substitute personalized medical, psychological, or therapeutic advice. Always seek guidance from qualified professionals for any physical, emotional, or mental health concerns.